Hello, my name is Alex Rollins, and our group is here to talk about the Code of Nessalem. The Code of Nessalem was a legal code for the Hittites from 1615 to 1500 BCE, fairly progressive in its time, providing women with more freedom to attain land in the event that their husband passed away, enforcing better treatment for slaves, as well as less violent punishments for violations. For instance, most of these laws require financial compensation instead of the eye for an eye doctrine that was typical in this time. What can these laws tell us about what society valued? By analyzing what these laws say and what the codes say, we come to the conclusion that they valued three things: peace and restraint, better treatment of slaves, not good necessarily, but better for the time period, and compensation for services, as well as a system for measuring value and worth. The first one, peace and restraint, is seen in Code 5, and it says, "If anyone slay a merchant of Haiti, he shall give 1.5 pounds of silver, he shall let it go to his home." And this shows that they put this law in place to prevent anyone slaying merchants. Better treatment of slaves is seen in Code 18. It says, "If anyone causes a female slave to miscarry, if it be in the 10th month, he shall give 5 half shekels of silver." Now, this may seem a little less than what should be paid, but it's more than what it used to be in this time period. Compensation for services, as well as like a system for measuring value and worth of currency, is seen in Code 160. It says, "If a smith makes a copper box, his wages are 100 pecks of barley. He who makes a copper dish of 2-pound weight, his wages are 1 peck of emmer." So showing what the worth of someone's services is, as well as a way of measuring currency for what everything is worth. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Savannah Rains, and I'll be talking about what life was like in ancient Babylon. If you were to kill someone, it came with a price of bringing the body and then having a certain number of men or women invited into your home. If you were just to hurt someone, you had to pay a certain amount of silver depending on if it was a slave or if you made somebody miscarry, depending on what month they were in. Slaves were used a lot in Babylon, and they were valued much less. If you were to hurt one of them, it cost way less than it did if you were to hurt a free woman. If you were to bring a slave from another world and their master was to find out, you either had, like another land, you had to either pay a price or they could get their slave back and one of yours. It depended on where their slave came from. If a slave woman was to marry a free man, and they were to divorce, the man would get all the children besides one. The woman would only be allowed to keep one child, and she would not be allowed to see her other children. It's the same for if a slave man was to marry a free woman. All the children would go to the woman, and the man would only get one. When it came to burning of houses, the slaves had it worse. If they were caught and their master paid back everything, the people's house they burnt down got to cut off their ears and give it back to the master. If it was just a free man who did it, you just had to pay for everything, build the house back up. Life was very hard for the slaves and mostly unfair. They did not get treated as equal as the free men and women did.
Hi, I'm Natalie Hod, and I had to answer the third question about this law code, which is, how does this law code compare to other law codes you are reviewing in class or that other classmates are reviewing? And the Code of Nessalem was an ancient Hittite legal code that addressed common issues addressed in like most of the law codes, such as theft, murder, and divorce, and also social issues were commonly covered, such as the treatment of slaves. Two other law codes that this one can be compared to are the Code of Hammurabi and the Code of Asura. The Code of Hammurabi was based on social stratification depending on gender and social status of slaves, free people, man and woman. This can be compared to the legal code of the Hittites because their law code also touches on social issues such as those involving slaves and issues involving men and women such as divorce. Also, the Code of Asura can be compared to this one because it again touches on issues like relationships between males and females, and it also touches on crime such as theft and murder. all three of these codes usually provided less severe punishments for violations of the code, but punishment was still administered, and each somewhat supported the idea that punishment should fit the crime.